Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making lasagna soup. So everything you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this soup. There's a bunch of stages to making this. However, this is so good when it's done and you're going to really love it when you actually make this. It is a great thing to have for lunch, dinner, or whatever. And it has such a great taste. It really tastes like you're eating lasagna but as a soup. But you'd be amazed how good this really is, because when I first made it, I was shocked how much I love this. So we're going to start off with 3 tablespoons of olive oil in a big pot, which we are going to add a medium onion, which has been chopped up into. We're going to bring the temperature up to medium high so we can cook this onion up, which is going to take a few minutes. So I cook the onion for at least 5-6 minutes to make sure that it is cooked through before you do a lot more to it. Then we are going to add 1 pound of ground beef, and we're going to break this up because we want it to cook throughout. We want to get this completely brown. Broke it up into smaller pieces as it's cooking. So chop it up, mix it through the onion so it can get to cooking. Now as this is cooking, you want to keep pushing it around with your spatula or whatever. You want to break this up as much as possible, because the more you break it up, the more it's going to cook through a lot faster. To this, I am adding salt and pepper. Now, a lot of people say add salt and pepper to taste, and you're like, well, I don't know how much that is. Well, I'm using about 1/4 of a teaspoon of each. So if that helps you out any, I'm not going to be one of those people that says, oh, just add it to taste, and then later on you find out you put too much in it. So, like I said, 1/4 of a teaspoon salt and pepper. And continue to cook this as your ground beef is browning. You know, it's going to take a few minutes before this gets completely browned, but just keep turning it over as you go and it will get there, especially if you're on a higher temperature. So at this point, we're going to add in a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. This is going to give it a kick and a little bit of an extra something it needs to give it flavor. And then we're adding about the equivalent of 4 teaspoons of minced garlic. Now once this is in, we're going to go ahead and mix it up again. We want to get this completely through the beef so that way you can start flavoring it. And as this is simmering, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning and 1 tablespoon of basil. And once again, mix it up so that way we can get it completely through. Make sure that all of this flavor is mixing into the beef. Because the best thing about this is as you're adding layer on layer of new things to this, you're adding so much flavor to it, which just makes it amazing to eat. Because there's so much good taste in this. When you get done, you will be amazed the way the soup is going to taste. So once our ground beef is pretty much completely browned, then we're going to add into it at least 1/4 of a cup of tomato paste. Mix that through a little bit. Once that's completely in, then we're going to end up adding 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. Now, if you're looking at this in the store and you can't find a big can of it, you can get those 2 14-ounce can dealios, which I get those myself. That's what I used in this. And I get the kind with the Italian seasoning in it because it actually helps punch the flavor even more. So put that in, and then we're going to mix it up again because it's constant mixing on this as you're going through. And as you can see, we're starting to make something that looks a lot like a sauce, but it's going to change just about now because we're going to add 32 ounces of chicken broth. And the chicken broth is going to make it the soup. That's going to add all the liquid to it to make it totally turn into a liquidy soup rather than a sauce like it was looking like before. So go ahead, if you got it, it's usually, if you get one of the large cube things of the chicken broth, It's actually 32 ounces completely in one container. So go ahead and pour the whole thing in. And as you can see, that already made this more of a soup. And then once we get this completely stirred up, we are going to add our lasagna noodles. Now, when you're doing the lasagna noodles, you can put in as much as you want. You don't want to overload it. So a half a box of lasagna noodles is about right. What I use is between 9 and 10 of the noodles, and you have to break them up when you're putting them in. So that way when you're actually getting ready to eat this soup, they're already broken up in the soup. One thing to pay attention to when you're breaking them up, don't leave large pieces of them when you're breaking them, because remember, you got to get this out of there with a spoon, and the bigger it is, the harder it's going to be for it to actually stay on your spoon. So go for, you know, a smaller break on it. But when you're putting this in, just remember, you know, 9 to 10 of these is great. If you keep going more than this, it's going to be overriding the soup with more of a pasta than, you know, what you have in the soup itself, and the liquid isn't going to work. So just stick with the 9 to 10. And once you get all of this in here and you stir it up and get the noodles down into the liquid, you're going to cook this for at least 20 minutes on medium to high heat. So that way it's going to cook the noodles that way. It's just going to cook them as it's actually doing this whole thing, and all the flavor is going to mix together as it cooks. And that's the best thing about this, is you've added so much to it that once it's done, it's going to taste so amazing. So make sure your noodles are underneath the water level, the liquid level, and just let it cook for 20 minutes. You can cover this, but in the meantime, I wanted to make some bread to go with mine, because so many people make soup and they don't show you anything to go with it. So what I did is I took a Kaiser roll here, and if you have like multiple people, you can take a couple of Kaiser rolls and cut these into slices. And what I'm going to do with this is just have something that either you could dunk in the soup or you could eat with the soup, whatever. It's just a side thing. So once they're out flat on my pan here, I'm adding some olive oil and just drizzling whatever amount I want on top of it. It doesn't need a lot. Then I'm going to put some butter over top of that. And what's going to happen with these is once they're done, we're going to stick them in and broil them. Or if you have an air fryer, which is what I did, it works really well because it makes these really nice. But they're going to be like little crunchy pieces of bread, and they're to the point where if you wanted to dunk them down into your sauce of your lasagna soup, you can do that, or you could just eat it on its own. But once you get your olive oil and your butter on it, then we're going to add some seasoning and stuff on top of it, because we're going to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese, which we're going to sprinkle over top, do a little Italian seasoning, just sprinkle it across the thing. You don't have to have a lot of this. And then we're going to pop it into either your air fryer or your broiler, and you're going to have bread when it's done, because it's going to come back with a little bit of a crunchiness to it, and it's going to be something you could bite into with a crunch, and the inside is not as crunchy, but the outside is, or you literally could dunk it in your soup. And that's the best thing about it. It just has such a great taste because you're giving the Italian flavor to this bread, and the olive oil and the butter just makes it wonderful. So when you're ready to serve, we're going to spoon some of this into a bowl and fill it up as much as you want to. And then what we're going to do with it, we're going to set this up on top to where it has some extra on top of it. So we're going to use a couple spoons of ricotta cheese. Then on top of that, we're going to sprinkle some mozzarella, and you can use as much of this as you want. This is kind of per taste. So this one, you got to decide how much you want. And then we're just going to put a little bit of Parmesan over top of this just to give it an edge. And this is it. And this is the best thing you're going to want to eat in a soup. It just has that great of a taste. And I love it myself, and I hope you love it too. Thanks for watching my video, and if you liked it, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out my cookbooks, which are available in bookstores worldwide. The first is all about everyday cooking. The second is all about baking. Have a great day.